So recently we've been delving into the daggers that are available in Elden Ring, and if you've seen the previous video, we turned one of the worst weapons in the game in general, which still happened to be a dagger, into a weapon that did thousands of damage per second. Well, whilst doing some research for that particular video, and also a helping comment from Squirrel Eater 1, so thank you very much for you, we now have one dagger that does thousands of damage per hit. Buckle yourselves up, because we're going to talk about something that's absolutely insane. Obviously, just before I give you the juice though, if you happen to like this particular video, do hit that like button down below. It helps me out a lot. It also lets me know that you enjoy this type of content and you want to see more in the future. And if you're new around here and want to stick around whilst you're down there, hit that subscribe button. That way you can stay up to date with all of the latest content that's released on this channel. It's free to do and you can always change your mind in the future. So why not give it a go? You never know. You may end up liking the content and sticking around. So yeah, give it a go. Anyway, back to the content. What is this dagger that does thousands of damage per hit, huh? Well, it's none other than the Glintstone Kris. Obviously, doing a bit of research with the previous episode looking into all of the weaker weapons in the game, daggers were obviously one of the main weapons showcased when looking at like the lowest base damage weapons, and I actually glossed over this particular one because I saw that it did magic damage, and with the two combined obviously it did more than just a standard dagger. However, I didn't realise that this thing was so much more powerful than what I first anticipated. Firstly, in order to obtain this weapon you can only do it once per playthrough because it's actually granted to you once completing Selen's questline. Now obviously, without boring you with the whole questline, I'm just going to let you know that we've got a shorts on the channel that actually goes through the questline in under a minute, so if you want to see a step-by-step guide that goes through it really quickly and promptly for you guys, I will have that linked in the description down below. But essentially, once you complete Selen's questline, I believe you need to be actually protecting her or helping her at the end. Obviously I won't spoil too much, but upon doing that and protecting her at the end, you will then get her dagger, which is this Glintstone Kris. Now the caveat with the whole point of it doing 1,000+ damage per hit is we're actually using the glintstone dart, so the ash of war that comes with this weapon is going to be our main point of damage output. Literally per hit it does 1,000+ damage and does almost 1,000 damage to most bosses without any buffs. So if you want to use like Terra Magica, Golden Vow, things like that, and also boost it with talismans, yeah, this thing, as you can probably tell, can become an absolute monster, and it's only a puny little dagger. The Ash of War is also a very low FP consumption. It's only 10 per like use, so if you have a relatively decent amount of mind, you can literally use this like 10, 15, 20 times, and just with those base numbers there, we're talking about this weapon doing tens of thousands of damage, and it's all at range, so you don't need to even get close to the enemies whilst also doing an astronomical amount of damage to them. So yeah, that's the weapon. I'm also going to be throwing up obviously all of the stats on screen for you now. The weapon itself does scale best with intelligence and dex, so as you can probably see, I am mixing this in with a sort of mage build, but the main focus is being the Glintstone Kris. Also, with it being magic damage and also the Ash of War being a magic damage, I would also heavily advise going into intelligence, because that's the thing that's going to boost the maximum damage out of it the best. It also does about 400 damage, just base attack as well, so if you were to say do a second playthrough and maybe dual wield these things, they could actually become very viable to do that, much like the previous episode where we're using 2 daggers at a time to do 3 or 4 attacks in quick succession. So it would also be doing 1,000 damage plus per second, whilst also giving you that option to literally obliterate enemies at range with the Ash of War. Just a quick preface, this particular build or this particular character, I haven't actually really obtained too many like mage boosting items, and I didn't have any of the talismans to boost sorceries and boost spells basically in the game, apart from Godfrey's icon, which helps with charged skills. And again, with the Glintstone Dart Ash of War, you can charge it up, you can just do a quick release with it, but if you hold it down it does also deal more damage, and mixing that in with something like Godfrey's icon, that obviously increases the damage further. I also do not have Alexander's shards, but you can use that as well. That will help out tremendously with the skill power. And then I would say, rather than using Radagon's Scarseal or Marika's Scarseal, you could probably swap them out to say help with a mage build to boost sword sorceries, much like you're going to be seeing me using them as well in the gameplay. And then of course in the Wonder Physic we had sort of like the magic tier, so the magic shroud and crack tier to help with magic damage, and then also the cerulean hidden tier to negate any FP consumption. As you can see, we were taking on Moog. I did actually die in the previous video trying to use the 2 blades to try and kill him off quite quickly, but I didn't manage to do it. But this was actually my first time going back into the battle using this particular build and this particular weapon, and yeah, it was almost like a breeze. Just the fact that I could keep my distance rather than being so up close obviously made it a hell of a lot easier. That's why I like mage builds as well in the game, because obviously you can just keep your distance and just obliterate enemies at range. And the Glintstone Crisp with its Glintstone Dart is just another great addition to these kinds of builds. Again, I was also just using my main armor that I normally use, but you could again mix this in with other armor sets to boost both intelligence and also mind and things like that. But just to go into the stats physically on my build, here are those stats. Just bear in mind that everything is +5 from Marika's and Radagon's Scar Seals, or Sword Seals, sorry. And then I've also got the Great Rune from Goldrick, which will boost everything again, +5. Yeah, that's why I use both of the Sword Seals, just where I'm at range and I'm hardly really ever going to be taking much damage unless I'm coming up against a boss that's really aggro. You only really, for this build, need to be focusing on, say, intelligence and dexterity to get the most out of like the damage output for this dagger. And again, depending on the armor that you're running, endurance doesn't really need to be focused as much, but then just put the rest into both health and mind, because obviously mind will allow you to use the Glintstone Dart a lot more and your spells a lot more, and obviously Vigor will keep you alive if you are running both Sword Seals, because you're going to be taking quite a bit of damage if you're running both of those at the same time. So yeah, that's all I would say you really need to focus on. It's just the 4 stats of Vigor, Mind, Intelligence, and also Dexterity, just to get the best output for this build. There's not really too much else you need to be putting into it, and it's just crazy to me that a dagger can do so much. I know Rejuvia is also a really good dagger that people use, because obviously the Ash of War with that is also insane, and just with it naturally being a blood loss weapon, it's always really good to have those in the game, apart from like against Radagon and the Elden Beast. Even things like the Black Knife is one that I've always used and I've always pretty much had as a crutch at the beginning of all of the boss fights. I wasn't actually using that, and that's something that you could maybe put into your builds as well, is get the Black Knife to do the original attack with that Ash of War to take 10% of the enemy's health straight away, whilst also having the Destined Death ability there to lower their defense and also take away their health. And then just go in, spam the Ash of War for the Glintstone Dart, and just take enemies down with absolute ease. So it's actually quite refreshing to find this weapon, and to know that it does so much damage is just, it's so funny to me to still be finding weapons, what, a year and a half now? Almost 2 years, in fact, since the game released. And I'm sure there's still many weapons that I haven't used yet that are out there to find and also make incredible builds on. But yeah, I just wanted to make this quick little video on the back of the previous one, because I also got a few comments. So thank you actually to Squirrel Eater 1 for also commenting, because like I said, I did gloss over this weapon for the previous video. And then also seeing your comment, I was like, yeah, I definitely need to try this out, because seeing that you put it does up to like 3,000 per cast, I obviously don't have this build tailored for that, but even just base damage doing thousands per cast, yeah, it's insane. So if you have ways in order to make this build even better, do in fact let me know in the comments down below, because that'll be really interesting to see what you guys are running, and if you're even using this weapon, or even if you knew it existed. If you didn't know about it, you need to know about it, because you're missing out. Alright, but yeah, let me know how you get on with this build. Obviously have fun with it, more importantly, and I think that's pretty much all I need to say about this particular weapon. Yeah, again, just lastly, like I said at the beginning, if you are new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are trying to aim for 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so it'll be really cool to hit that target if we can. And of course, if you happen to like the video, hit that like button below as well. And if you've made it all the way to the end, write down in the comments, I'm a true legend. I want to see how many of you are making it to the end of the video, so definitely comment down below that you are a true legend, and I'll be sure to personally thank all of you that make it to the very end, because I really do appreciate you listening to my dull voice talk about weapons in Elden Ring. But yeah, I've spoken enough now. Go use this build, go have some fun with it, and I'm sure I will see you in the next video of whatever it is that we make. Bye bye.